Hello and welcome to Cherry Red TV and AFC Wimbledon TV. I'm Iain McNay and our special guest today is Dickie Guy. Hi Dickie.
Hiya.
And of course Dickie is a real legend in Wimbledon and AFC Wimbledon circles. He's president of AFC Wimbledon and also, as most of you will know, he was goalkeeper for Wimbledon FC for about 10 years back in the 70s and 80s. So we're going to talk a lot about the old days and also about his role at AFC Wimbledon and how he sees the club going. So let's start at the beginning. When you were at school, were you a good footballer then?
Obviously I played in the school side. I had a little try at centre forward a few times, but I was stuck in goal. I probably wasn't good enough up front.
So you tried centre forward, did you?
I tried it for a while, yeah.
You fancied being a striker and getting the glory up there?
Yes, I fancied a bit of glory, but it was too much running for me. And then I obviously stayed in goal, represented the district side. And then I think when I was about 14, I think it was, I got invited to go down to Erith and Belvedere.
Because you lived in Bromley,
I lived in New Cross then.
Right.
The family come from the Old Kent Road. Both sides of my family come from the Old Kent Road, and we lived down a short distance from Millwall Football Club, the old original, the Den. You got the Coldblow Lane, and one end was the Den, and the other end was where we used to live. So I was living there when I was 14, and I used to travel over to Erith and Belvedere a couple of nights a week.
And were you supporting Millwall as a kid?
Always, all the family supported Millwall.
Right, yeah. So you went to all the home games pretty much,
did you? All the games, yeah.
Yeah.
All the family, all my mum's family supporters, all my dad's family supported them.
Right, yeah.
And then I went to Erith for about, I think it was about a season, and I had a couple of run-outs in reserves. I was only just 14 or 15 at the time. And then my father, we wrote to Millwall for a trial, and they arranged a trial for me on Hackney Marshes, which went belly up because I went over there and didn't get a game for some reason. I don't know what it was, but there was incidents all the way coming back. The conductor on the bus, who used to have conductors in those days, had an epileptic fit, so it was quite an eventful day. I no medical training, but I had to help him on the floor and undo his collar and all things. All these things come back to you when you talk about what happened, like when you started playing, and that was the start of it. And then my father went down to Millwall and complained that I'd gone all the way over to Hackney Marshes and didn't get a run out, so they arranged a game for me, or invited me to play down at the Den, and I signed for Millwall in their combined in the South East Counties side, and I played there for about 3 years. I think the manager did come round, and Billy Gray was the manager. He came round and asked my dad if I could sign as an apprentice. Well, Dad was on the misunderstanding that if you didn't make it as a pro, then you couldn't revert back to an amateur, as it was slightly different in those days. But he was wrong, obviously, and I just stayed there as an amateur for 3 years. I represented the London youth.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we got to the final of the
FA. You must have been quite proud then, weren't you?
Oh, it was good. Yeah, it was a cap. It wasn't the cap, but it was a cap.
Yeah.
I played for London several times. We got to the final of the FA County Youth Championships at Leicester, and I got sent off in the final.
You got sent off?
I got sent off in the final because someone was cheating again, and I just lost my rag.
Right.
So
you were shouting at the referee, were you? Or?
No, there was a bit of a goalmouth melee, and I think it was 2-2 or 3-3 at the time, and their guy just punched the ball into the goal, and I just lost it. And then a little while later, he punched the ball in. Everybody saw it except the referee. Similar sort of thing that happened at Eastleigh this year, but it was a goalmouth melee. He's punched the ball in the goal, and then a few minutes later I had the ball, and in those days you could obstruct the goalkeeper from kicking the ball out, and he'd go one way, I'd go one way, he'd go the same way, and then I got past him and kicked it, and he nudged me. I just turned around and hit the fella in front of everybody, in front of the referee, who was about 2 yards away, and I was obviously sent off. And then I was 15, I think, and then I had to come back on the pitch. I was in the changing room, I was crying actually. I was so upset. I used to get so uptight about things. And I had to come back out in the park to get my medal in front of all their supporters, and they were shouting and throwing things. And the funny thing was, quite recently, I found the letter the fine that I got, it was sent to me from Gordon Borland, the Millwall secretary at the time. I was fined and censored to my future conduct, fined £5, which is quite a lot of those days.
Yeah, it probably was.
Yeah, so that was the only time I ever got sent off. But I had 3 seasons at Millwall.
And you were hoping to presumably to break through into the first
I'd love
team?
to have done. Yeah, I had a couple of reserve. I think I had a couple of reserve team games down there. But I'd love to have gone full time. It was a misunderstanding. It didn't work out. But,
Yeah. And Millwall were playing in was it the old second division then or third division?
I think it may have been the third division then. At the old Den, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what happened after then? After Millwall?
After Millwall, I think I was working in the docks at the time. I'd just gone from London docks up at Wapping there. I was a Port of London Authority messenger boy with a uniform on a bike. Right. And used to run the letters from London Dock up to Trinity Square to the head office, and then down to Eastern Department, which is all completely changed now because we go up there quite a lot up to Wapping. I was running the letters round and round there, and then I transferred down to West India Dock, and the Port's health officer at West India Dock was the manager of Tooting and Mitcham, and I think he heard that I'd arrived in the area, invited me down to Tooting and Mitcham to play. And Doug Fleck was the manager down there, another old goalkeeper for Fulham. And I signed for them when I was about 17, I think it was. And I got straight into the first team when I was about 17.
And were they playing in the Southern League at that point?
No, they were in the Isthmian League, Tooting and Mitcham.
Okay, yeah.
And then I played against Wimbledon in the Premier Midweek Floodlit League. I think it was at our ground. I think it was at Tooting. I think it was at Tooting's ground. And I did quite well. And then Les Henley wanted to sign me straight from Tooting.
Les Henley, of course, was that time managing Wimbledon FC.
The manager of Wimbledon, yeah. Wimbledon FC for some time, yeah. And
you saw that as a step up because Tooting were quite a big club as well, weren't they?
Tooting were a big club, but they were in the Isthmian League. Wimbledon at the time was the Southern League.
But they were the same level, weren't they? I think.
The Southern League was semi-pro then.
Okay.
Yeah. So I signed on for Wimbledon. And I don't think I got into the side for about another year or so. I played in the Midweek Floodlit League most of the time for the first year, I think it was, or 8 months. It's a long while ago now, Iain. I played there.
You're doing well, Dickie. Your memory's working fine.
Yeah. And then, although I lacked a lot of confidence when I was okay once the game started, but I used to suffer from nerves before the game. But I was quite fairly confident off the pitch, and I went to see the manager because I don't think Frank was having too good a time in the side, and I was doing okay. And I just went to him. I said, "Look, I think you're taking the mickey at me now." I said, "Look, Frank's not doing too good. I'm doing really well. Not sounding big-headed, but I was doing okay."
Yeah.
I said, "I think I ought to get a chance." And then the following week I was in, and then I think I more or less had quite a run. You've got the details, but after
your first game was away to Stevenage. We worked it out earlier.
Right.
But you only played that one game,
right.
I think. Yeah.
Frank must have been injured, perhaps. I don't know. But I may have said that to him after that because once I had this little talk with him, then I think I stayed in the side more or less all the time.
You came back in looking at my notes here, in the 68-69 season, and your first game was against Worcester.
Right.
And you only let, I think, 1 goal in the first 5 games, which of course is a great record.
Great ground that used to be at Worcester as well. Good atmosphere down there.
Yeah. And then you were pretty much in the side after that for 7 years.
I think I was, yeah.
You just missed 1 game, I think, in that time.
That was away to Dagenham in the London Senior Cup. I think Paul Priddy played in goal.
Right.
And I was in the stand, I wasn't feeling too well, and people were saying, "Has Dickie got to shave his beard off now?" He must put a false nose on as well if it was me. No, but I had a good run. I was, touch wood, I was lucky I didn't get many injuries.
So when you came to Wimbledon, what was it like? How was it different from, say, Tooting, for instance?
So, it was a bigger club and we used to get a lot more people down there. I think Tooting was only perhaps 200 or 300. I think it was getting on for 1,000 even when I first went to Wimbledon. When I was in the Southern League, when I first got into the side, there was quite a few people there.
And the gates were more than that. The average at that time was around 1,500.
Oh, it was 1,500 then, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And which other players were there that we would know now? Was Ian Cook was there?
Cookie was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cookie. We go back a long way, me and Cookie. It's like 40 years nearly now, I would imagine, 35, 40 years. He was a dirty little player, Cookie. Anyone got past him, he'd be snapping at their ankles all the time. He wouldn't be so mad in the tackle, but he'd be coming behind them, kicking from the behind.
Because he's a bit of a sort of a fair play proponent these days, isn't he? So
Is he? Well, he
you're
wasn't when he
saying
was playing.
Really?
No, he was a.
So they go past him. He kind of little subtle...
he'd had their ankles. Yeah,
Would he really?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Wasn't the hardest player in the side at the time. I mean, that was to come afterwards. That was Selwyn, without a doubt. But at the time, Cookie was there, and Johnny Martin, who still comes down to the ground.
Right.
Roy Law, obviously. Dave Willis, who has been to the ground a few times. I've not seen him for a while, but he come to the ground. He was left back. And then I don't think there's anyone else. Jeff Ham. Well, Jeff had just left before I went there,
Yes,
actually.
yeah.
Jeff had just left
Yeah.
before I got to there, but he still comes down to the ground, obviously.
And what did you realistically think about your career at that stage? Obviously, it was already a step up. You were enjoying it. Were you hoping that Wimbledon would climb higher, or were you hoping to go to a bigger club?
Well, I was obviously hoping that I'd get on in the game. Anyone that plays football wants to get as far as they can, obviously. And most people think that they're good enough to get that little bit, and they think, well, I've not had the break or whatever, but you still carry on, and you're still enjoying your game, so you still keep playing, obviously. I always hoped that I would have got a club, but it never materialised. Well, obviously it wasn't good enough.
So you were basically waiting at Wimbledon for someone to come and find you, or?
Well, I was happy to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to play in the Southern League. It was a good club. I used to love it down there. I was there 10 or 11 years, I think. I'd have stayed there all the time.
Yeah.
Loved it down there.
Because it was a good atmosphere, because it was a fairly small ground, even with 1,500, 2,000 people. There was a decent atmosphere down there. And there was something special, wasn't there, about Plough Lane?
Yeah, I think it's because you were so close to the everyone was so close to the pitch. I think you get the atmosphere there. When you get a lot of people there, it was a terrific atmosphere. Yeah.
Yeah. Did it ever go through your mind that one day that ground would host top league games?
No, not really. I'd left obviously by then, but it was just incredible how they climbed from the non-league to the first division. It was amazing.
So anyway, so at the time you were there, to start with, Les Henley was manager.
Yes.
And then he left, and it was Mike Everett, wasn't it, that
That's
took
right,
over?
Mike Everett came.
What kind of changes were there then?
There wasn't a great deal of change really. I think Mike brought a few more players in from Brighton where he was manager previously. There wasn't a great deal of change really until Dick Graham followed Mike Everett. Dick travelled up from Colchester, I think, when he took training. The only real changes came when Alan arrived at the club.
So after Mike, it was Dick Graham, wasn't it, for a couple of years?
Yeah, that's right.
And they were not good years by Wimbledon standards.
We struggled quite a bit when Dick was there. Yeah.
So what was the feeling in the team then, when kind of for Wimbledon really that the club was underperforming on the pitch? Was the team spirit? Could you tell that in the team spirit things weren't going right?
It did go a little bit actually around that time. Obviously, it's difficult because it might sound selfish, but you want to play good yourself. And if you are playing good and everybody feels that same way, then the team is going to perform better. There's always a good spirit in the dressing room, but I think on the park we did lose it for a couple of years there. I think when Dick Graham was there.
Yeah. And then, as you said, Alan Batsford came in, and he'd been at Walton and Hersham, hadn't he?
He'd been very successful at Walton, yeah.
Yeah, and he came in for the beginning of the 74 season, I think it was, wasn't it?
That's right, 74.
So
yeah,
what changes did he make when he came in?
About half the team. He brought about 6 or 7 players down from Walton and Hersham.
Yes.
I think he organised training a lot better. He trained us really hard with Brian Hall as assistant manager. I think the big difference obviously was the quality of the players that he brought in with him. The 2 big guys up front, obviously Kieran and Roger Connell and Kieran Summers. He brought Harry down, didn't he? Bassett down. Dave Donaldson at the back. It's quite funny because I'd been there 7 or 8 years I think then when Alan came, and I was obviously doing my bit. But when Harry came, he was the biggest mickey taker you could ever imagine, Dave Bassett. And him and Dave Donaldson used to give me so much stick here, and I couldn't believe it. I'd been there 7 or 8 years, and I was one of the top players there by then, obviously. And I used to go home to my missus and I used to say, there's two fellows down there. I said, they're driving me mad. Dave Bassett, I said, he don't stop talking. I said, he's winding me up the whole time. She says, don't be a big girl's blouse, you know. He says, grow up. So I said, no, he's driving me. I said, it went on and went on and on. In the end, I got hold of Harry one night. He was on his own. I just got hold of him. I said, look, you're going to have to stop this. I said, you're driving me mad. And I did the same to Dave Donaldson as well. Like, on their own, I thought, I can't have this anymore. They're driving me crazy. And then since then, Dave and I have been really good friends. And Dave is the godfather to one of my children.
Right. So it's on the pitch, Dave was just giving you verbal through the match?
No, only wind-ups.
It was wind-ups, so he was joking around, basically.
Oh, joking around, yeah, but he used to drive me mad.
Yeah.
He didn't leave off.
Yeah.
But it was great to have in the side, great for team spirit. He'd kick a few as well. he'd win the ball, but then what do I do with it when I've won it? You know? Yeah. But he was a good lad.
Yeah, he had strength, didn't he? He didn't give up easily.
No, he was a strong player. And then obviously we had Selwyn. And Selwyn was different class. He was so strong, solid little lad. He's struggling now, I think, with his ankles. I think both his ankles have been fused. I think. Yeah, he's taken so many kicks on them that he can't walk too clever now.
You see, it's interesting because these days at AFC Wimbledon, especially both yourself and myself, we really are in favour of fair play and the team playing fair and not shirt tugging and cheating and things. Yet in those days, I guess football was different because the Wimbledon team, as you say, Ian would kind of tap people on the ankle. Dave Bassett would get stuck in. Of course, the latter days of Vinnie Jones and Dennis Wise, all kind of things went on. So it's interesting how it kind of evolved, and now we'll cover this later. But now AFC Wimbledon stands for kind of a fair play type club.
Yeah, without a doubt. I don't condone cheating. I hate cheating. I like good tackles.
Yes.
And I love great play. I mean, you can't even touch goalkeepers now.
Yeah.
I've got all bent fingers because people you go for a cross and then someone give you a whack and it'd knock your hand away and the ball at the end of it, all your fingers get bent up. You can't touch goalkeepers now.
That's right.
You can't even have good tackles, really. I mean, the referee will blow up. But, okay, I mean, if that's for the benefit of the game, fine. But I just can't stand cheats. I hate people diving and I just hate cheats full stop.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're talking about the season 74-75.
Yes.
Alan Batsman had joined as manager. He changed about half a team.
Yes.
And I think the first game Wimbledon lost, if I remember rightly, and then they won the next 12 games.
Right.
So it was a great start to the season. And then, of course, there was that FA Cup run.
Yeah, the big FA Cup run, yeah.
Which started, was it at Bracknell it started, I think?
Yeah, Bracknell, and I threw one in.
So what happened there?
I think I lost it in the sun, actually, a cross came over and I lost it in the sun.
Really?
Well, that's what I say now.
You pushed it in your own net, did you?
No, I didn't. I dropped it. It went in, finished up, but it was down to me anyway. Well, you say you throw it in, but you don't literally throw it in. It's down to the keeper.
Yes,
so that was down to me. Yeah, so it wasn't a very good start to the for the cup run, but I made up for it afterwards. In that game as well, I did a few things to do in that game.
Right.
and obviously it's history of what happened after that.
Well, actually, it's interesting because Ivor Heller was sitting in this seat just a week ago, and he was saying that he felt in the Bath City game, which was the first proper round, that was the turning point, not only for the cup run, but he felt for the kind of career of Wimbledon FC, because I think, didn't Wimbledon score in the last minute or something in that game? Is that correct?
I can't remember, mate. I really can't remember that. But Bath City was another great ground to go to, one of the old good Southern League grounds.
Yes.
There was good atmosphere down there.
Yeah. And then, of course, there was the match against Kettering in the second round. And the third round was news headlines because Wimbledon was drawn away to Burnley. And Burnley were then in the old First Division. By old first, I mean the top division.
They were third, were they? Were they third?
They were certainly in the top six,
Yeah, they were third, yeah.
So what was it like to hear that news? You were going, here you were semi-pro at Wimbledon, and here you were going to a First Division club to play away from home.
Well, it's a great opportunity. I've always said it now when you're going to see non-league sides come up against a league side. It's a great opportunity for the young lads to show what they can do. Like I said earlier that most players feel that they should be playing at a high level, and when you get up against a league side, especially a First Division side or whatever, you get the chance to show what you can do, you know. And it was a great chance for us. I mean, there was 20,000 there, which for us was a lot at the time.
Crowd, yeah.
It was a full house there. But you just wanted to get out and sort of pit your skills against the guys that are doing it full time every day, and it's a great chance for them. And it's a really enjoyable game. I loved that one at Burnley.
So were you a bit nervous as you ran out?
I was always nervous before.
Yeah.
Always nervous before a game, but as soon as it kicks off, it goes.
Yeah.
And then you're into the game then. It's great. And I was quite busier at the Burnley game than all the other cup games that we played in. But the cameras weren't there then. I think Bob Lord, the chairman, had a bit of a bust up with the BBC. I mean, there weren't that many televised games in those days, were there? There weren't that many games.
It's completely different, yes.
Yeah, it's a lot different to what it is to what it is now. I mean, if it had been now, the club would have been made a fortune out of it. The exposure that we could have got, but the cameras weren't there. Bob Lord had a bust up the BBC, so it was recorded somewhere. But Mick Pure has been trying to get hold of it for the last few years, and it's impossible. Lord Faulkner's tried to get it for us, and if he can't locate it, then it's probably been destroyed.
Yeah.
But it was like the Red Army against Burnley because they just kept coming at us all the game. It's great when you're a goalkeeper in those situations. You're on a no-lose situation because if they score against you, they're a first division side. If you're saving all the shots they're putting in and the crosses and the headers, you come out a hero. Which is what happens.
So once Wimbledon scored, did you think you could hang on and win the match?
Yes. Oh yeah. I was always confident. Alan instilled a lot of confidence in the side when he came. Like the following games against Leeds and all that, we didn't fear anybody. I would have played against anyone. With the side that we had, it was solid.
So what Alan's team talks like?
Well, I used to be a bit of a pain in Alan's neck really because I used to talking or messing about, and I always had a bit of a bugbear to Alan because I'll be trying to talk to someone else or joking with somebody else when he's doing his team talks, and he used to get a bit upset. But everybody had their job. Right, we'd be sorted out before you went in on a Saturday. You'd have your job, what you had to do. There'd be set pieces will be sorted out, attacking and defending set pieces. It'll all be sorted out. And on the day, you just want to go over it very quickly with you. What's happened on the Thursday night in training? Don't fear anybody. We didn't fear anybody. Could have played against anyone.
So how was Alan different from the previous managers, Mike Everett, and Les Henley and Dick Graham?
He was more thorough. And he was more organised, probably like Terry is now. Terry's very organised, isn't he? With his training and everything else that they do, with the management team that he's got there. He's much more organised, goes into detail, which is what Alan did, which was new to the club when Alan came.
And had he had Burnley watched? Had he sent people up?
Yeah, I think Brian Hall went to see. I think Brian used to watch the games for us as well as being assistant manager.
So what reaction did you get after the Burnley game from the Burnley players? Did you have any communication with them?
Not so much after the Burnley game. No, we didn't hang around too long after the Burnley game. I don't think there was facilities there. I can't remember now, Ian. I don't think we actually stayed there very long at Burnley.
Okay.
We was on cloud nine.
Yeah.
Coming back on the train, and then an impromptu party at Glenn Aitken's house. Everyone back to his place. In sunny Deptford, and it was great. And then actually after the Burnley game, they had the draw when it was in the Bath because they did it straight after the game at the time, to be drawn against Leeds up at Elm Road.
So you're actually in the Bath in the changing room.
Yeah, we was in the Bath. And
so you heard it on the radio.
Yes, Sunbelt radio.
Wow,
that was incredible.
Yeah,
I mean, we played the side that's third in the first division, beaten them, and now we've got the European champions. Or European Cup finalists.
They were the first division champions.
And European Cup finalists the previous year, I think it was.
Yes, they weren't champions, yeah.
And it's another chance for the club to be put in the spotlight and all the players to have a chance to show what they can do.
Yeah. And weren't you taken down to the BBC after the match on Burnley to play a match today?
Not the Burnley game, that was
the Leeds game, was it?
That was the Leeds game, yeah.
So let's just look at the preparation for the Leeds game. So you already had the biggest game in the club's history, and now 3 weeks later, the second biggest game in the club's history. What was the preparation like? Well,
there was lots of cameras down at training, and the press were down there most nights to watch what we were doing, take photographs and do interviews and such. Training didn't change much for what we had to do. It was difficult because most of the lads worked. Most of the lads. I don't think Roger did. Most of the lads worked. I did shift work at the time, which is difficult. So to train Tuesday and a Thursday sometimes was difficult for me because I'd start at 2 some weeks.
So which kind of job were you doing
I was a tally clerk in the docks down at West India Docks.
Okay.
One week I'd start at 7 o'clock and finish at 2, and the following week I'd start at 2 and finish at 9. But fortunately for me, all the lads in the office were football people. So I'd start at 2 and finish at 5, most training nights. So about 2 or 3 times a week I'd be driving up the road at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I could get to training okay. That was going from the Isle of Dogs, West Ferry Road over in Millwall, over to Wimbledon. So training 2 or 3 nights a week to the build up to it. And then they took us away and we stayed in a hotel somewhere. Oh no, that was the replay. We went up to Leeds the night before, obviously. And that was just incredible. Arriving at the ground, like as a non-league side.
And 45,000 people
Yeah.
there.
And I've never seen so many people outside the ground when we arrived.
Yeah.
And then the old nerves started going, yeah. And then you'd want to do things in the changing room, you know, what you normally do.
Yeah.
But then you walk out on the park to have a look. And bearing in mind, the Burnley game was the most I've ever played in front of was 20,000. To go there, it was 45 or 46,000 there. And this was before the game. They were chanting Leeds and they were banging on the hoardings. I was walking out, making out I was reading the programme, but I was sort of shaking like a leaf, you know.
Yeah.
And then we started the game, and in the first half, I thought, well, what's so special about Leeds? I didn't have a shot in the first half. I had a couple of things to do, but virtually nothing. And as the game got, obviously, the game got on towards the end of it, then I think they started to panic a little bit. They realised they're struggling here to get a result. You know, they started to pressurise us a bit more. And then they got the penalty, obviously, in the last 5
your
minutes.
mate Dave Bassett let you down, didn't he?
It was a terrible tackle. I don't know, God knows why he kicked him, because there was 2 of them there. It was him and Bob Stockley. And I think he's gone past Bob, and Harry's just come across and gone and just kicks him up in the air. And he was wide of the goal. He wasn't on, you know, he wasn't about to shoot. Okay, he might have got across him, but he was quite wide in the area when he did it. And everybody thought then, great, this is it. Well, not us, but they always thought this is it.
Okay, so what was your process? It's a penalty against you. Peter Lorimer was renowned for a pretty hard shot and a good penalty player, a good penalty taker. You're standing there, and in those days you couldn't do the antics of jumping up and down.
Move your feet.
Exactly, you had to kind of behave yourself and stand on the spot. Yeah.
Yeah, just keep your feet still on the line.
So what's going through your mind when that's?
Well, what was going through my mind was I've got to time it just right. Bearing in mind I couldn't move my feet, because you're not allowed, in those days you had to stay on the line, you couldn't go forward. Obviously you can't go forward now, but you couldn't go side to side. All I could do was move my arms. I had to time it, bearing in mind at the time he had the hardest shot in football. I had to time it just before he shot to throw myself as far to the right as I possibly could, because that's where I decided he was going to put it.
Had you watched his penalties before on TV?
No, but I've always got it in my mind when I was playing that if someone does hit it really well, then normally he's going to pull it round to the right hand side. That's the way I'd always go, unless I knew otherwise. And I timed it just right to, as he hit it, I'd go as far across to the right as I could. But obviously he scuffed it a bit.
He did more than a bit, yeah.
He scuffed it properly. And I had to bring this arm back. And this is what I tell everybody, it made it a better save, that I pulled this arm back underneath me to stop diving over it, which would have looked dreadful if I'd have dived over it and it would have crept in the goal. Yeah. And I think it was Jeff Bryant whacked it away. Yeah. And then it all erupted. Everywhere, our supporters just went through the roof.
But you must have felt pretty good too.
I felt great, yeah. But we still had about 5 minutes to go. Yeah. And then it was like the Red Army coming at us. They're like Burnley all over again, the last 5 minutes. But then, when it was over, it's so stupid, the things that I because I get so worked up, I got back in the changing room and I sat down, I just burst into tears.
I can understand that.
I think it was the pressure that was building up and building up. I got in there, everyone was sort of cuddling each other, and I sat down and I just went, and all the tension had sort of come away from me, you know. Yeah. And then the television came down. Can you come up and do an interview? Well, I'd already agreed to go on to the Brian Moore show on the Sunday lunchtime. So they're dragging me upstairs to the gantry to do an interview up there, and I'm thinking, well, they've offered me some money here to go on Brian Moore the next day. Am I going to blow the contract? This is going through my mind as I'm walking up to the gantry. So we did an interview at the top there, and then we came back. Well, great night that night. We mixed with the Leeds players in the nightclub up there.
So how were the Leeds players to
They
you
were
guys?
okay. They were okay up there. Well, actually, no, it wasn't okay. Not all of them was okay. No, they didn't. They didn't
They
really
must
want
have
to.
been embarrassed.
They were embarrassed to a certain extent. Yeah. But we did socialise a bit with them up there. They weren't too friendly. I'm thinking of the Middlesbrough game a couple of years later. That was different. They were a different class. Graham Souness was top man when we played up there. But the Leeds lads weren't too friendly. I think they probably were a little bit embarrassed, yeah. And we stayed up there that night, but we did have a good night.
Yeah.
We did have a good night. I think we got to bed about 3 or 4 in the morning, which is understandable after what had happened. All the wives were up there.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. And then they sent a car for us. Brian Moore and the ITV, or whatever it was, sent a car for us to take us back down the next day. And my wife's cousin Vincent, who's got the studio I was talking about, him and his wife came back, so we were cramped in the car to get back to the studios. And the sun in our face all the way back down. And it's a funny thing that things stick in your mind, aren't they? The sun was in my eyes all the way back down the motorway. And we got back to the studio. Great man, Brian Moore, was a top man. Did the interview. He was actually, one of the other guys from one of the other stations actually phoned him up and said that was one of your best shows that you've ever done. It was because it was like David and Goliath, wasn't it? It was non-league Wimbledon against Leeds. Had a drink in the bar with him afterwards, and he said, I suppose you're going to go back and watch this now on TV, aren't you? Get back and... I said, no. I said, the television's broken down, actually. 2 days before we had the game against Leeds, the television packed up. And because we was going away, I was going up to Leeds early, we didn't have a chance to get it sorted out. So he said, oh, OK. Then he said, come back to my place. And he took us back to his house, phoned his wife up to allow an extra 2 places. And he had young boys there that were football mad, and they loved it. And we went back to... He lived in Farnborough, which is just down the road from where I lived in Bromley. So we went back to his house and watched it there. He was a really nice man.
Yeah. And of course you became celebrity then, didn't you?
I became quite well known, yes, after that, yeah.
How did that feel?
Was, I mean, people still do it, people still come up to me now and say, are you Dickie Guy? Did you play for Wimbledon? It was all those years ago, and it's remembered now. I think it was, like I said, it was the David and Goliath thing, wasn't it? It was a non-league side playing against a really top side and doing well. It's like us playing against, say, Chelsea now, isn't it, really? It's like a Southern League side playing against Chelsea now, or Arsenal now.
It is the equivalent.
It's equivalent to that now.
Yeah.
And it had not been heard of for a non-league side to do that well.
Yeah.
And people still remember it, and they still talk about it, you know.
So Wimbledon won the Southern League that season.
Yes.
And they won it the next season.
Mm-hmm.
And the season after that, you had another big game, didn't you, in the 3rd round of the FA Cup?
Middlesbrough. Yeah, we played...
who were then a big club in the old First Division.
Then a big club in the First Division, managed by Jack Charlton.
Yeah.
I think we drew, was it 0-0 our ground? I think it was 0-0, that's right. And I think Jack had his suspicions that we put the hose on the pitch because it was quite wet. It got a bit wet at Plough Lane, and I think he suspected we may have wet the pitch down a bit, but I don't think we did. I think it was just his imagination and his way of getting out of the fact.
I remember it being a wet, rainy evening.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Not a very entertaining game at our ground, really. I wasn't called into action hardly at all in that game. And then we went up to Ayerson Park, as it was then, another full house up there. I can't remember who gave the penalty away, but it was another penalty that up against us in the second half, I think it was. And I always remember Alan said, if they get a penalty against you, he'll put it to my left, say, or my right, whatever. So he went up and take the penalty. I thrown myself as far as I could that way, and he put it the other side. It was about 4 inches of snow up there as well in that game. And before they could start the game, I think they delayed it a little while. They had to go out to a sports shop and get an orange ball because there was snow covered the whole pitch. I was surprised that they played it, actually. But I was a lot more busy in that game than I was probably in both the Leeds games. That or Burnley was probably my better games for the club. And after that game, we did socialise with the Middlesbrough players, and Graham Souness was playing, and he was a top man. He was a good lad. Yeah. Made sure we looked after us, Jack Charlton, and they all brought us plenty of drink and everything, and looked after the lads.
But they had beaten Wimbledon.
Well, they had beaten.
But the other way around, it might have been different.
Possibly, but Souness was a good man.
Yeah.
Nice man.
We didn't actually talk about the second game against Leeds. We should just run through that to put it on record.
Yes.
So the build-up started with Brian Moore, and I know you got a lot of publicity before the game. And then, unfortunately, of course, with the game was originally going to be at Plough Lane, and then due to the weather conditions, it was postponed. And they moved it to Selhurst Park the following week. And so there again, another 45,000 people. You're playing in effect a neutral ground, although it's a home game, and the spotlight's on you. How did you feel there? Did you feel a bit more confident because you kind of done it once before and held them once before?
Very confident. As I said earlier, I didn't fear against playing anybody. Always nervous before the game, and I was really nervous before that game. Because all the family, everybody, all your friends, there was 45, 46,000 there, and there was probably at the most about 3,000 Leeds supporters. All the others are neutrals, apart from what our 3,000 we normally have. All neutrals supporting us. Yeah. It was fantastic night. I've never seen Selhurst Park packed as it was. I mean, we've got the old video getting very grainy now, but we've still got the video, and you can see the support there was incredible. I had to go out. I got an award from the Evening Standard, I think, Player of the Month, and I went out in the park before Alan gave me this. It was Evening Standard or Daily Mirror. I got one of each for that month, and we went. I couldn't believe the crowd there when they Alan presented me this trophy. Come back inside, and
but Dave Bassett did it again, didn't he?
Dave Bassett did it again. Yeah, he did say, "I'll make you famous one day," and I think he did it in one way or another. Yeah, it was. I look at that shot now on video and I think, could I have got it if I'd have took an extra pace? Because when you're a goalkeeper, like, sometimes you have to take off from where you are. Sometimes you might get a little pace in, a little step in, you know. Because quite often you watch games and you think he could have got another step in there and he would have got it. You know, you've got to be very quick, obviously. Yeah. But I look at this and I think, would I have got if I'd have took another step, would I have got to that? I don't know. But when you look at it, it was quite away from me, and it was going wide. That's the annoying part about it, and it was going well wide of the goal. Yeah, it was well deflected. Yeah. And I did my big girl's blouse thing, and I did all this and banged my arms up and down on the pitch. But we didn't disgrace ourselves, although they did have a goal disallowed, didn't they? They did have an early.
That's right.
They did have an offside goal disallowed, but we could have scored in the first 5 minutes. I don't know if you've got the film. Have you seen the film?
Not recently.
Well, we could have scored. I think Roger could have scored in the first 5 minutes. He blasted over the top, and that would have been incredible. That would have been a great start to the game. We could have turned it upside down.
So after that, was it a bit of a letdown in terms of coming back to real life in the Southern League?
In the Southern League, well, we took some stick from the away fans. I tell you, everywhere we went, especially me, because I got a lot of publicity from the games and all that. Kettering was one. I'm quite looking forward to going back up to this year, actually. But Kettering was one that used to give me terrible stick. Dartford. No, we wanted to do well. We wanted to win the league, and we wanted to get voted into the league, which you had to be voted in, obviously, in those days. And the only way you're going to do it is if you win the league. You got no chance other than that. I think the trophy had just started, but we never fared very well in the trophy, did we?
Just to go back, I'm just interested. What's it like? You're standing as a goalkeeper there and getting stick from the away fans. It must be quite hard to focus on the game if you make a bit of a mistake or something.
Well, yeah. It's when you hear certain, if they're funny. I mean, it's silly. I used to lose my head a lot, but what you should do is just laugh it off. I mean,
you should do, but it's not so easy.
It's not always easy. If you make a mistake, and it used to get to me. If I'm honest, it used to get to me. But when you see at our ground, our supporters give their goalkeeper a stick, and if the goalkeeper goes along with it, at the end of the day, our supporters clap him off.
Absolutely.
Which is the way it should be. The goalkeeper should just go along with it and laugh and joke with them, and then they'll have pulled him off the pitch. Yeah. I wasn't always like that. I used to lose my head a bit. I remember going to one game. I think it was with Wimbledon down at Yeovil. It may have been with Maidstone. I'm not sure. We went out in the second half, and after these cup games, I was getting several stick at away games. And we got down into the second half. I ran up to the goal in the second half. I think it was Yeovil. And all their supporters were clapping me. It was quite a lot on the bank behind the goal, and they're all clapping me. That's strange. When I got into 6-yard box, they threw everything at me: tomatoes, apples, oranges, everything. That sold the game up before they could restart the second half. But I probably took a lot more stick than the rest of the lads because, as I say, I was on the telly a little bit afterwards and all that because of the cut, because of the penalty save.
Basically, we were a bit out of sequence there. We talked about the Middlesbrough game.
Yes.
And then at the end of that season, Wimbledon were actually elected to the Football League Division 4.
Yeah. That was good. That was, I mean, that was a pinnacle really for the club at the time,
Yeah.
wasn't it, to get into the league?
Did you feel that might happen? Because I remember there was a campaign, wasn't there? Dons for Division 4. We all had car stickers,
Yeah.
and there was quite a campaign.
Yeah,
there.
there was quite a campaign. They had a few campaigns, but until I think Alan came and helped get the club a bit more organised, I think it was we had more chance when he was there.
So how did you feel when you were going to be a Football League player?
Well, that was great. I mean, everyone wanted to get into the league. All non-league players want to try their luck at the league.
Yeah.
I remember going up with Bassett, actually. Him and his wife Chris and me and Josie went up to, I think it was a Southern League dinner up at, it might have been the Cafe Royal with Harry. And I fell out with the Dover chairman actually that night, funny enough. I was talking about things and I said, well, most people in football unfortunately are used. I said, the players are going to be used until they're not good enough to be in a side. And I said, and probably the chairman, when his money runs out, they'll get another chairman. But it was got quite heated that night.
Wow. Anyway, we got elected to the Football League.
We got to the Football League at long last.
And then things didn't go quite as planned, did they?
No, not for me, certainly, because I only had about 20 games, I think, 19 or 20 games. I found it difficult anyway. I mean, I'd love to have signed full-time for the club. Well, it was difficult though, because I was still in the docks at the time and I was hoping to take a redundancy from the docks. The docks were gradually closing down and moving down river.
Yeah.
You know, from the West India dock, from London docks to the West India docks, and it was going the Royals. It was gradually going down to Tilbury. And
you were in the early 30s then, were you? What kind of age were you?
I think I would have been about 28, 29.
Okay, all right, for a goalkeeper.
For a goalkeeper,
that's fine. Yeah.
It's very young, yeah. And I would love to have signed full time.
Yeah.
I didn't get the opportunity. I would have probably jumped it, but I was hoping to get some redundancy from the docks really, to set me up doing something. But I did eventually. I did take redundancy, but it was after I left the club. But I would have liked to go full time. Would love to have had a chance to go full time. If you got the chance, I think you got to take it.
Yeah. So you as you said, you played about 20 games, and I think Alan Batsford wasn't getting on with the owner Ron Nodes at the time either, was he?
No, I think they had a few fallouts. I think Alan had his own mind, and if he didn't get his way, what he wanted to do things, and obviously Ron was the same. Ron was organising the finances of the club. Alan probably didn't get what he wanted and they fell out. I mean, it's quite easy to fall out with both of them, really. I've got every respect for Alan for what he's done for the club. I said that when I had the dinner with Dickie. I said, I've got great respect for the man.
Yeah.
But he had his views and Ron had his views, and if they'd clash, simple as that.
And what was your opinion of Ron Nodes?
I quite like Ron, actually. I actually said that to him when Dave Bassett had his 60th up in Leicester. Ron came round to our table with a few of the old lads there. And I said to Ron, there's not a lot of people like you, Ron. I said, but the funny thing is, I've always liked him. We've been down to his place in France with Dave Bassett and his wife and Josie and myself, and he let us use his place on a few occasions down there, but I've always liked Ron.
So your last game for Wimbledon was against Torquay.
Torquay.
I think that was early 78, I think, from my notes here.
Yeah.
And then you left for Maidstone after that.
Maidstone United, yeah. They were in the Southern League then. That was quite a local one for me, just straight down the M20.
Was that a bit of a wrench leaving Wimbledon? How do you feel about that?
Well, it was a terrible wrench because I went down there to... I saw Dario, obviously, and I went down to...
Dario Grady had been brought in as assistant manager, is that right?
He'd taken over then.
And then he took over from Alan Batsford, yeah.
It was a wrench for me to leave the club. I was there in like 10 years and lots of people there. I mean, even now, when I go down to the club, I regard that most of our supporters as friends, really. I mean, it's like, you got about 3,000 friends when I go down there, but everyone wants to talk. Everyone's very sociable down there. But when I left the club, I actually went past there one day and it was overgrown. You know, the pitch was weeds everywhere. And I walked out onto the park, into the middle of the park, and I just looked around and I had a lump in my throat. I was there 10 years, don't forget. And a security guard appeared from nowhere. He said, "Excuse me, you'll have to get off. You'll have to leave." I said, "Okay, mate, I'm going now." I didn't tell him that I played there for 10 years,
Yeah.
but I was choked.
Yeah.
I really was choked.
Yeah. So you were at Maidstone for 3 years, and
For 3
they had
years.
a good cut run, and they beat Charlton.
Yeah, we did actually.
Yeah.
That was an eventful game as well, because that was the day when 2 of the players got sent off for fighting.
They were fighting with each other.
Yeah, fighting with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Derek Howells, I think it was, and Flanagan, I think it was. It was in the second half, and we beat him. I think. Yeah, it was second half, just right at the corner of my eye. He's whacked him.
Yeah.
They had an argument. Derek Howells just whacked Flanagan, and they both got sent off. And I forget who we played after that. It was a non-league side. I don't know.
Don't have that information. No.
Yeah, I don't think it was another league side.
Yeah.
It may have been, actually, it may have been Gillingham. I'm not sure. But we didn't last very long anyway.
And then you had a season at Carshalton and a season at Bromley.
Yeah, but it was never the same.
Yeah.
It was never the same as leaving Wimbledon.
Yeah.
I should have stayed there. I mean, Dario said if you want to, like, you're welcome to stay and see the season out and try and fight for your place. But I was too young, really. I was 28. I was too young to leave. I should have stayed on, really. For a goalkeeper, that's no age.
Yeah.
And then when I went to Maidstone, I'd left the docks and I started really working for a living then. I was buying old houses at auctions and doing them up, working on my own, renovating the property and selling them on.
Okay.
And I did find that a struggle because I was actually working hard to when I was working the docks, which was easy work, you know. And I struggled a bit fitness-wise then. But I packed up at 33, which was ridiculous age for a goalkeeper. I've had a couple of little goes at vets football since then. And obviously down the ground when we played Liverpool, I turned out in that game. But I did say I would get fit for next year's sponsors game.
Brilliant.
But I need about 3 months to do it.
So anyway, were you then still a supporter of Wimbledon FC? Did you go to matches?
I didn't go to that many games.
No.
After I packed up playing, then the children came along not long after that, which obviously took over for me. We had Susanna, and then Josie was pregnant with the twins when we beat Liverpool in the FA Cup.
Right.
And everybody thinks, or she certainly thinks, it put her into labour.
And excitement. Yeah.
The excitement, they were born just after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had to take her to hospital, did you, during the final, or?
No, she was at in Farnborough because they were very early, and she was taken to St George's, which is down the road round the corner from the ground.
Right.
About 5 o'clock one morning. We had Susanna, who was 4 by then, I think, and I had to get a friend of ours, an old lady, she rushed round about 5, 6 in the morning. I had to try and get to St George's from Bromley before the ambulance got there, because obviously I wanted to be there when the twins were born.
Yeah.
And that was just like a nightmare. I got there, and you know what it's like at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the hospital. It's very quiet in the mornings. I burst into the hospital, and all I could see was corridors, and I just kept running down corridors, and it was very, very low lighting. And I kept running down, and I thought, oh my God, I can't find any maternity. There's no one about to ask. So I just burst into one room, and it was an intensive care unit. Everybody was laying there with masks on, like half dead, white faces. And I said, where's the maternity? For goodness sake, tell me where the maternity ward is. And she directed me, and I got there just as the ambulance, just as they were taking her, and I was there for the birth of the twins. Yeah, it was brilliant.
Wonderful. Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah. But
the nurses were trying to calm me down, give me tea and toast, but I was like, I get so uptight, and whatever I do, and I get so incensed whatever I do. Whether it's going to a football match or going to the wife's birth, you know, or the twins' birth.
Let's say you have a lot of passion. I'd put that.
Yeah, I have.
way.
Yeah, that's the way you are, isn't it? Really?
Absolutely. So when the demise of Wimbledon FC and the well documented whole saga with Milton Keynes, when AFC Wimbledon was formed, how did you feel about that?
Well, I honestly didn't think it would get off the ground so quickly and be so organised as it was. I was asked to go down, and when they had the trials on the Common, just to have a look at the goalkeeper situation, who was going to be there, and can you pick out a few that might look okay. I did that, I think 1 or 2 times, did a bit of training with them over there. But I was still surprised the way it got off the ground.
Yeah.
You know, the way they got it organised so quickly and found out what they had to do. I mean, no one run a club before. No one been in touch with the FA before to find out how you run a club, how you get into a league. And to do what they'd done, I say to people now, I mean, the way the club got started and the way it's progressed over the last, 7 years, is it?
We've had 7 seasons, that's right.
7 seasons. Yeah. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, we did capture the imagination of everybody, didn't we? Right across the country. When it started.
For football fans, absolutely, because it could happen to any football fan. What happened to us, and I think what people responded to was the positivity. We'd had our years of protests, and then there was the famous speech that Chris Stewart made. I just want to watch football, and from that moment on, Chris and Ivor and Trevor and a couple of others, Mark Jones, put so much time into it, they made sure it would happen
to get it going.
Yeah,
it was amazing how they got it going so quickly.
Yeah. So, and you became president of AFC Wimbledon?
Absolutely delighted. I felt humbled. I felt delighted. I can't put into words how I felt when they asked me. I tell you what it was. I think it was after the first season when we got promotion. Everybody gathered back at the Alexandra pub in the village.
Right.
I was standing there with Josie. We were having a drink. Everybody around us talking to the supporters. And I said, I'm going to have to go over to Chris and Ivor. And I'm going to have to say, look, thanks for looking after us the way you do when we come to the club, because they looked after myself and the family every time we went down there. Yeah. And as I'm about to walk over to him, they came over and said, would you do us a big honour of becoming president? And I was just gobsmacked. Yeah. And I was absolutely over the moon, and I still am over the moon.
Yeah. Well, you're a great president, because it's not only the fact you have the history and the tradition of Wimbledon, it's the fact you are so passionate about the game and the club.
Yeah, well, if you haven't got supporters, then you haven't got a club, have you, really?
At the end of the day, well, there are some clubs with no supporters, but they don't last very long.
Yeah, but they haven't got supporters like ours that rallied together and dragged the club back together, really, basically, after it was taken away from us. I know you've got the FC Manchesters, and they decided to opt out from... But it's a different scenario to ours, isn't it? So what we did, or what we had to do, what our supporters had to do, had to form their own club again after having it taken away from them.
Absolutely. So, at games now, how is it for you? Are you still, when the ball comes near the goal, are you kind of going... You're kind of anticipating the save the keeper has to make?
The instinct is still there when you're a goalkeeper, especially at the end of last season. I think the Hampton and Richmond game, I honestly thought that I was going to have a heart attack. From the time I got into that stand, my heart was banging. I can feel it banging the whole time, right through that game. I've never had that before. I've always been excited about games and got nervous about games, but that Hampton-Richmond game, my heart was pounding from the time I got in that stand until afterwards in the boardroom when I calmed down a little bit. Yeah. But I don't think it'll be like that this year, not for me anyway, because we're not expected to do well. We're not in... Well, it was at the end of the season when that was happening, but we're not sort of favourites this year. We're not going to be expected to win so many games. It's going to be a difficult time for us this year. Yeah. I don't think we're going to struggle. I think we're going to do okay, but I think it's going to be a bit more relaxing to watch the football because we're not expected to win most of the games.
That's true. And how was the Bromley game for you last season? That was pretty controversial, wasn't it?
Well, I don't think I'll ever go there, not while they've got that management team in place anyway, because I feel we were cheated. It's not the thing to do. Okay, the referee couldn't do anything about it. It wasn't the referee's fault. It was their management team's fault. It's simple as that. They should have let us walk the ball in. But the guy that scored took great pleasure in celebrating along with most of his teammates after he scored the goal. I felt that the manager could have quite easily have said, just let him walk it in and let's forget all about it. Yeah. But to do what he did and to let the game go on as it did, that to me is just cheating. And I just hate cheats.
Yeah. I remember you got pretty excited about it, didn't you?
I did get very excited, but I was at fault there. I should not let those people drag me down to their level. But I did. I got a bit incensed about it, which won't happen again. I've assured people at the club that will never happen again. I won't lose my temper again. But you should never get dragged down to other people's levels. Yeah.
Dickie, I've enjoyed the interview. It's been great hearing about the whole history and how you felt about all these key points in your career. And like you, I'm really excited about the forthcoming season. A little bit more relaxed than previous seasons because we're not the favourites.
That's right.
But on the other hand, I'd love to think that we'd be in with a chance of making those playoffs and going up again. Why not?
I think people say to me like, at work and socially, how do you think you're going to do this year? Well, I say, I think we're going to be in the top half of the season, top half of the table. I think the non-league paper, the experts have put us in the top 8. I say that top half of the season, well, I'd be very happy with that. But when you're top half of the season, you're nearly always in the shout of getting into the playoffs, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're always a few points and a few wins away from the playoffs. And that would be the icing on the cake to get in the playoffs.
Well, let's hope we get the icing.
Yeah.
I think we deserve it.
I'm sure Terry and Cashy and everyone at the club will do their utmost.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching Cherry Red TV and AFC Wimbledon TV. And we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.